Welcome back, you guys. Today I want to talk about just an icky, I don't know. I would like to make a case that forgiveness and letting things go is like the hardest thing in the world to do. The hardest thing, I tell you. And not only because it's hard, but because I do not believe in the concept of forgiveness. I don't. Because if you let things go, if you say that it's okay, I forgive you, I let it go, I move on, you have to basically be accepting the fact that, or believing the fact that it's not going to happen to you again. That's why you're able to move on from things, right? And this is my interpretation. I don't expect anyone to believe this. Yada yada. I'm here to find middle ground, I guess. Whatever side you're on. And I know in so many situations in my life, if I keep forgiving this person, who I know is going to do the same thing again and again and again and again if given the opportunity, that reflects poorly on my own decisions. Because say you're in an abusive relationship, for an example, and your husband is beating you up, and you forgive him, and yet he just does it again and does it again and does it again and again, and you keep forgiving him each time, saying that it's okay, I forgive you, I move on, I'm gonna let it go. I'm sorry, how can you just be okay with that and forgive this person and not make any changes? The first step to changing anything is to acknowledge it and to address it. And the first step to combat anything is to confront it. So how can you move on when you know that it's just going to keep happening? How can you be okay with yourself knowing that you're just setting yourself and your own standards and your own boundaries up for failure? How can you... Oh my gosh, it makes me actually insane. That being said, I have one example of somebody who feels the same way that I do, and this example is Taylor Swift, which I feel like is maybe partly why I stand the way that I feel so heavily, because I stand her so much, and I'm like, this is who I have looked up to, but I don't know. Regardless, I look at her as an example, and I'm like, she is not happy. She can't let things go to save her life years later, and it just seems like, okay, like, at some point you gotta move on. You can hold a grudge for a little bit, but when she's still writing about things like decades later, it's just a little bit much. And I think time is everything. Time is so everything. You can't just expect to be okay with letting things go immediately. But also, time does not heal anything if you are not actively taking steps to heal in that time. Time changes nothing. It's what we do in the time that changes. So she's clearly not taking the steps. And I feel like I don't necessarily either. Because it's hard. I feel the way I feel, and I always go back to the way I feel. But then I look at her and I'm like, where would she be, though, if she could just let this stuff go? Where would she be? And I used to stand, the way that she felt until it's been decades later and she's still talking about the things that I was attracted to at first. And now I'm like kind of questioning, okay, maybe I don't really agree with this. And I've tried breaking down the reasons, why I fear, I guess, letting things go. What do I feel like is going to happen? And what I've broken down is, in my opinion, if I let things go, I'm going to lose control of the control that I have, like the control of the grudge, of the resentment, of the unforgiveness, of the this and that and yada yada. I feel like if I let it go, everything is going to fall apart. Everything is going to just fall apart and crumble before me. I'm going to like lose my job. I'm going to lose progress with my business. I'm going to lose clients. I'm going to like, my apartment's gonna, I don't know. Like, this is the thing. I don't even know. I just feel like everything is gonna spiral out of my control because I'm letting go of that hold that I have. And that hold to me feels like security. I've noticed lately, this is being so rare. Please go easy on me. I'm sensitive. I feel so not secure in so many ways of my life. And I'm saying this vulnerably because I'm working on it and I want to be able to be open about the things that I am actively working on as I am working on things with you. So you know, like, I am battling my own battles and I'm working on it and I'm taking the steps to execute it, and I want you guys to see my progress. You can actually see how I work too. Anyway, I feel very not secure in so many ways of my life. And I feel if I let go of this, letting go means letting go. And how am I supposed to have any control over the things in my life that I'm scared of not having control over if I'm just letting it go and going with the flow? That sounds so not secure and safe to me. That sounds like a very not wise decision, because in my opinion, the people who are the most successful have so much control and calculation, and they analyze everything. How am I supposed to succeed in anything in life if I don't have control? In saying this out loud, I feel like you guys are probably like, this is resonating a lot with you. I'm gonna assume. Saying this out loud feels very vulnerable, and it also feels, I want to say, silly on some level, because it's putting things into perspective. Like, okay, I'm confronting this giant out loud. You know, monsters only live in the dark. And I'm speaking this into the light, and it's like, oh, maybe that's not so scary, actually. Maybe that's kind of funny. Maybe it's a little silly. Maybe it's a little stupid. Maybe I can get past this. Maybe. I mean, if you think of it like literally like a monster, you know, when you start imagining, or have you ever watched a crime show, for an example? Like, it gives you that fear of, wow, this stuff actually happens. You don't see it every day, but it happens. And then you start going around your workday just paranoid. Are you a serial killer? Are you a serial killer? You know, we actually come across 6 serial killers in our lifetime. Wild. And then you just start questioning, is it you? Is it you? Is it you? And then you just start questioning everyone, and you don't trust anyone. And it's just, on some level, it's probably a healthy way to live, to not just go around trusting everyone. But at the same time, you can't live like that. I'm sorry, you can't live like that. You gotta just be secure in yourself and just trust yourself. Which is kind of what it boils down to. Do I just not trust myself? And this is something I'm very much working on, because I know I do, but not to the extent that I should. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. But when you think about monsters, whether it was when you were a kid or things that you fear now, you know, when you start going down that spiral, it's so easy to just start spiraling, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and darker and heavier, and just this massive giant that you just cannot defeat, Because you know what? It's not even real. It's a made up giant in your head. The thing that you're battling is actually so small. It's so small. Did you know that the devil himself is actually really small? And if we could see just how small he is, we would probably laugh. And be like, I feared this thing? And all the emotions that come from it, the fear, the anxiety, the everything that is not good comes from this thing that is so small, and we let that just take us over. Have you ever gotten a splinter in your finger? It's so small, and it can just ruin your day. Right? That's how it is. It's just something that is just so small that you just let it take over your entire happiness. What I would like for us to do is to confront these monsters that we battle, that we think we're battling. The real monster, not the, but then this and then this could happen and this might happen and then battle the monster that you are facing. That splinter. Battle the splinter itself. What can you do to eliminate the splinter? Rather than looking at it and then going, and then it's going to get infected, and then I'm going to have to chop my hand off, and then I won't be able to do my job because my job requires me working with my hands, and then I'm going to lose my apartment, and then I'm going to, like, the battle is the splinter. How can you defeat that splinter? It's so small. Yeah, it would be a huge deal if, then you ended up losing your apartment and your job and all these things, but how realistic is that? Well, you know what? It is possible if you don't defeat that monster, but okay, so defeat the monster. That's your step number 1, defeat that monster. I just want to keep it real with you. Why did I say it like that? I want to keep it real with you. After saying all this out loud, and feeling like honestly really good about where I'm going with this episode, I want to say, and this is why I have to forgive now. I have to just accept that that's something I have to do. But that's not the way I think. That's not the way my brain works. My brain goes to, but again, if I say, okay, I'm going to start forgiving, what happens when that person starts beating me up again? The abusive relationship of the dynamics I'm in. What happens when it starts happening again and again and again? And I'm just putting myself through it each time and then going through this repeating cycle of telling myself, I forgive this person. They don't know what they're doing, blah, 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 blah. And honestly, I don't know the answer to this. I don't know. I want to know your guys' opinion on this. How do you feel? I mean, I think that you have to let things go for your own sanity. Because otherwise you will live so miserably forever. And I say this as I'm thinking about the way that Taylor Swift lives. Clearly so miserable. She has so much going for her, so much potential, and yet she's just miserable. And she literally says in her latest album that she cannot forgive the smallest man who ever lived. And I just think how much that's eating at her, and the only person that it is killing is her. The only person it's killing is her. The smallest man who ever lived probably is offended about her album, but moved on. He probably legit forgave her. Says, you know what? This is just who she is. It's what she's going to do. I forgive her. I am moving on with my life. And yet she can't. At the end of the day, the only person she is hurting is herself. And I know that this is how I need to look at it myself. And I just honestly am not sure how to get there. And I'm working on it. And I think the first step for me, confronting that splinter, was saying this in the light. So that it cannot live in the dark. It cannot live in my brain of just repeating over and over and over and over and over. Because I will never get anywhere with that. I won't. It will be stuck in the loop of circling around in my brain. I needed to speak it out, say it to existence, that this is how I feel, confront it, because that is the first step to move past anything. And maybe I'll let you guys know if I have an update where I ended up going with this. But I wanted to say this. I wanted to talk about this. I think this is something that we all struggle with on some level and nobody really talks about. You know? Maybe like at church or something, but I don't think that we need to go to church to confront these things. I think that this is something that should be confronted, whether you're religious or not even. This is something that should be said and thought about and talked about. So please comment in the comments below. What are your guys' opinions? I really want to hear about it. How do you feel about this? How do you get past it? Just let's talk it all out. I want to know all of your thoughts. As I'm thinking about all this and saying all this, and I know this isn't like totally and completely related, but I think it can kind of correlate. You know, have you ever had someone in your life that you were like, maybe it's a best friend, maybe it's a boyfriend, whatever. You're like, if anything ever happened between us, I would literally move states because I cannot exist in the same place as you anymore. And to move on, I have to literally move on because I am that person. 1000%. And then knowing that every time this happens, I will have to move states every single time. And that is a brutal way to live. There are enough states. I will never have that many boyfriends. But how can you live like that? How can you afford to even live like that, honestly? And I think what I've come to terms with in the past is, to be honest, I haven't come to terms in the past. I have literally done this. But what I know that I needed to come to terms to in the past is saying, you know what? I just lack apathy towards this person because for whatever reason, it didn't work out because they did this to me or that to me and yada yada. Like, and this has nothing to do with an abusive relationship. If you're in an abusive relationship, you need to get out. But if it's like a toxic boss or toxic coworkers or things in your life that you cannot control, people are being rude and mean to you, saying, you know what, like, this is where I'm at for the time being. I know this is not permanent. I'm at this place for XYZ reasons. Unless you need to get out, like, then get out. But if it's, you know, just things that just are ticks that get under your skin, come to the terms and saying, you know what, like, I just lack apathy towards this person. Like, they're rude to me, but you know what? They have no hold on me. They have no hold on me. They can say what they want. I just don't feel like they even have enough say to even make a difference. So, like, that's what I think it comes down to. Like, whether a pastor would agree with this or not, in my book, forgiving someone comes down to a lack of apathy. Tell me if this is wrong. I'm curious what you guys have to think or have to say about that. I really think that's just what it comes down to. And it's funny, I've never thought of it like that before. What I think is hard, though, with this is people that you genuinely do care about, whether it is a husband, whether it is a family member, your parents, your sister. Like, how do you have that apathy but still have love for them? Or should you cut them off completely? This is an entire another episode, I guess, if this is something we ever should dive into. But Yeah, that's something to think about, isn't it? For now, I need to end this episode before this gets too long. So I would encourage you guys to book a free discovery call with me to see if I could be of support to you in any way. Maybe you're going through something like this. Also, follow me on almost any social media platform at Make Waves Coach for more free inspirational content. Also, find me on almost any social media platform at Mermaid Kassandra, as I'm a professional mermaid. Also, check out my podcast, Make Waves, Mermaid Kassandra, available every place podcasts are found. I will be back in the next episode. Go out there and make waves. Mwah.